Marina sat by the window of her grand house, her eyes fixed on the lush fields stretching far beyond the village. The house was quiet. The only sound was the soft rustling of the trees in the breeze. Alexios, her husband, had been away for days, traveling on one of his many trading trips. His absence left an empty space in the house that even the fine furniture and beautiful paintings could not fill. Marina was beautiful. Everyone in the village said so. Her long, dark hair framed her face perfectly, and her eyes shone with a certain brightness that always caught attention. She was used to being admired. Men often stopped in the square just to look at her, and the women whispered about her beauty. Marina had the power to make people stop and stare. But despite all this attention, she felt an emptiness inside. Her life with Alexios was comfortable. He worked hard, and he loved her deeply. But Marina wanted something more. She wanted excitement, something different from the predictable routine of village life. Her marriage, once filled with passion, had turned into a series of lonely days. She had everything she needed: fine clothes, jewelry, and a warm home. But none of it seemed to matter when Alexios was gone. His visits were short, and he was often tired from his travels. Marina found herself looking for something else, something that made her feel alive again. As she stared out the window, Marina's thoughts drifted to the men in the village. They were simple farmers and traders, all of them bowing down to her beauty in one way or another. But none of them excited her. None of them made her feel the rush of emotions she craved. That was when she first saw him. Lucas. He was walking through the village square, carrying a basket of fresh vegetables. His posture was straight, his face calm. His brown eyes were kind, but not entranced by her beauty like all the others. Marina noticed this immediately. Most men couldn't take their eyes off her, but Lucas didn't even seem to glance in her direction. Curious, Marina decided to learn more about him. She had heard that he lived on the outskirts of the village with his wife, Ava. Lucas was a farmer, a simple man with no interest in wealth or status. But there was something about his calmness, his grounded nature, that intrigued Marina. For the first time in a long while, she felt the desire to know someone for reasons other than their admiration of her. It was early one morning when Marina decided to visit Lucas. She left her house under the pretense of needing fresh vegetables, knowing full well that Lucas's farm was the best place to find them. She put on a simple dress, one that wasn't as glamorous as her usual gowns, and left the house. As she walked through the village, she noticed the way the men stared at her, the way the women whispered behind their hands. But Marina didn't care. Today, she was going to visit Lucas. Lucas's farm was not far from the village, situated near the edge of the woods. The path leading to it was lined with wildflowers, their colors vibrant in the morning sunlight. Marina took a deep breath of the fresh air, enjoying the feeling of the earth beneath her feet. When she arrived at the farm, she found Lucas working in the garden, pulling up weeds and arranging the crops. "Good morning," Marina called out, stepping into the garden. Lucas turned, surprised to see her. His face was friendly, but there was no hint of admiration in his eyes. "Good morning, Marina. What brings you here?" Marina smiled, enjoying the rare attention of someone who didn't seem to care about her looks. "I was just passing by and thought I'd stop for some fresh vegetables. Your farm is known for its good produce." Lucas nodded. "You're welcome to take what you need." Marina bent down, pretending to examine the vegetables, but her mind was elsewhere. She noticed how Lucas's hands were rough from working the land, and how his clothes were simple yet clean. He had no desire to impress anyone. His quiet strength was something Marina found unfamiliar and, in a strange way, appealing. "Thank you," she said after a while, standing up. "I enjoy the peace out here. It's so different from the village square." Lucas looked at her with a soft expression. "The village can be loud sometimes, but out here, it's quiet. Just the work and the land." Marina looked at him closely. "Do you ever wish for more excitement?" Lucas shrugged, his eyes turning back to the ground. "I don't need excitement. I have everything I need." Marina felt a flutter of something in her chest. For once, she wasn't being flattered or admired. Lucas wasn't interested in her beauty. He didn't need her, and that intrigued her more than anything. As days passed, Marina found herself visiting Lucas more often. She told herself it was for the vegetables, but deep down, she knew it was because she enjoyed his company. Lucas treated her like a normal person. He didn't fawn over her or try to impress her. Instead, he listened when she spoke, and she found herself sharing things with him she hadn't shared with anyone else. She began to look forward to their conversations, enjoying the simplicity of his life. Lucas, though reserved, started to warm to Marina. He could see how beautiful she was, but it was her honesty and curiosity that made him want to be around her. He was used to seeing the world in a straightforward way. There were no games, no pretending. But with Marina, things were different. She had a certain charm about her that made it hard to resist. Over time, their meetings grew longer. They would sit in the garden, talking about the crops, the weather, and the simple joys of life. Marina began to see Lucas in a new light. He wasn't like the other men who adored her from afar. He wasn't impressed by her beauty. He didn't see her as a prize to be won, and that made her feel special in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. One afternoon, as they sat together near the edge of the field, Marina asked, "Lucas, have you ever thought about what you want out of life? Do you want to stay here forever, just farming?" Lucas paused, looking out at the horizon. "I'm happy here. I have my wife, Ava, and the farm. That's enough for me." Marina's heart sank at the mention of his wife, but she quickly masked her emotions with a smile. "I see. You're content with your life." "Yes," Lucas replied, turning to look at her. "And what about you? Are you content with yours?" Marina hesitated. She wasn't sure what to say. I'm looking for something more," she admitted, her voice soft. Lucas nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "Everyone is, I suppose. But sometimes what we need is already right in front of us." Marina felt a strange tug in her chest, as though Lucas had seen something in her that no one else had. She wasn't sure what it was, but in that moment, she knew that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet understand. As Marina continued to visit Lucas, she began to feel a strange sense of power. Lucas, for all his strength and quiet wisdom, seemed drawn to her. He would do anything to make her happy, and she knew it. But there was something deeper within her, a desire to feel wanted, to feel desired. And Lucas, despite his simplicity, had begun to offer her that. The more she saw him, the more she enjoyed the feeling of being desired by someone who wasn't just interested in her beauty, but who seemed to see her as more. But Marina knew that her feelings for Lucas were complicated. She was married to Alexios, and she couldn't let go of the life she had with him. Yet, Lucas represented something she had never had before: freedom, simplicity, and perhaps real love. The tension between Marina, Lucas, and Alexios grew stronger. What had started as innocent visits to the farm began to spiral into a web of secrets and lies. Alexios began to notice the distance between him and Marina, the way she seemed distracted and distant whenever he was home. And one evening, after hearing a whisper from a neighbor, he decided to confront his wife. Now, from this point, the story will be continued in the next part.